Hi, my name is Aquila Hicks, also known as Coach Q. I'm a believer, wife, and a mom of 3, and a certified life and health coach who absolutely loves coaching women on living a more joyful life. I once was an overwhelmed mama and wife suffering from severe postpartum depression and anxiety, and it wasn't until I began chasing after wisdom that I learned how to truly enjoy life. Like Proverbs 3:17 states that wisdom will lead you to a life of joy and peace. Guess what? I'm continuing to chase after wisdom, and I'm bringing you right along with me, teaching you everything that I've learned and that I'm continuing to learn so that you too can have a life of joy, abundance, beauty, and balance. So get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and inspired. Grab your favorite cup of coffee, get cozy. This is the Ladies After Wisdom podcast. Hey, you all. Welcome to the Ladies After Wisdom podcast. This is Aquila, also known as Coach Q. You guys, today I'm going to talk about something, or we're going to talk about, because I have a special guest that's on, we're going to talk about finding joy despite your relationship status. And the reason I want to chat about this and talk about this is because many women that I have been in contact with, whether on social media, in person, I've found that either many are challenged with a relationship issue, they are going through divorces, and many who are married are challenged with some unhappiness. So I wanted to talk today about how you can find joy despite what your relationship status is. Years ago, when I was in church, I go to Family Christian Center, my pastor was on stage, and it was like a Valentine's Day service. And he had made a comment and said that all the married couples in the audience was looking at the single ones thinking, boy, aren't they lucky? And then all the single ones were looking at the married ones saying, wow, aren't they lucky? Many times in life, we can tend to believe that what we don't have is what we really, 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 really want. And as we're striving to get what we want, or even in the seasons where it's difficult for us, where we're having difficult seasons, it can be challenging to find joy when we're not where we want to be, whether we're single and we desire to be married, or whether we're married and we're desiring to have a better marriage and be better in our marriage, but we kind of got to just get through that season. So today, I'm going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about how you can remain joyful despite whatever relationship status that you are in. I'm going to share some tips within my marriage of how I stay joyful. And then a very dear friend of mine, Ralinda McCoy, that I have been knowing since high school, she's going to share how she remains joyful being single. My friend Ralinda is someone who I have coached, and she coaches single Christians. She has the P of Me podcast. She is a minister. She's an author. She's a teacher. She's a dear friend of mine. And once again, she's one of my coaching clients. I absolutely love Ralinda, and I'm so, so joyful to have her on today. So come on and let's welcome Ralinda. Ralinda! Hey, Ralinda, I was just sharing with everyone that we went to high school together, sharing with them that you're a minister. Can you tell us just a little bit about the P of Me podcast?
Okay, the P of Me podcast stands for the Psalms of My Emotions podcast, which was birthed out of my first book that God had put on my heart to write, which is pretty much, it's still out there, shameless plug, on Amazon, The Psalms of My Emotions. My face is on it. Looks like I'm crying. It was just basically a pouring out, of my testimony and things that I've been going through, emotionally, in hopes that it would help someone, and to know that what you're going through emotionally will help you bring yourself into a place with God that, a testimony will come out of that. And it will help someone else know that you're just not going through those emotions, going through that heartbreak for nothing, right? It's going to be used, and it's going to be used to empower you, and it's going to be used for the glory of God. So that's pretty much what it got birthed out of. So my podcast is all about just emotional healing and how to bring people out of that. And so I have topics that God gives me, and usually it always has something to do with the heart.
All right. I love it. And so it would be the pofme.com where they can find that podcast.
Well, you can look it up at any time that you, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Most of the time, it should be there. There are some things that I pop up on, and I'm like, I didn't know I would pop up on it, like Audible and Amazon Music and Apple. Look, I'm not an Apple person. That's why. I use Android, but look, Samsung has a podcast. Podbean is my hosting website. So anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can go on the website. It's under construction though, because it needs some work. But you can also, wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts, you can look up the Psalms of My Emotions podcast.
All right. Okay. All right. Ralinda. So we're just going to dive right into it. Why are you so passionate about leading Christian singles?
Well, I am that, and I mean, you've asked some really good questions. So if you guys hear me turning the pages and everything, it's because I had to absolutely write down what, I didn't want to lose anything and didn't want to go off the cuff and lose anything important that came to my mind with these questions. But yes, that why am I passionate about leading Christian singles? First of all, because I had no one to lead me to a healthy space in being single, just down to, like my mom and the women in my family. It was always that search for someone.
Yeah.
All I saw was just, oh, well, maybe I need someone to help me with this. Maybe I need someone to help me with that. I'll go further, if someone helped me with that. But no one has taught me that I'm enough, right? That I'm enough, that God created us as a single. And obviously it's enough, because if that wasn't enough, we couldn't go to him without someone, right? He makes this a private affair. So obviously he means it that way, to be single. But, he does add to our life though. But sometimes we make those additions like the main thing. So I just wanted to make sure and remind people, that you are enough. So that's pretty much why I'm passionate about leading singles. And like I said, most people to solve a single problem, which, I just want to put out there, singleness is not a curse.
There you go.
So I just see people when they say you're single, it's always that, well, you'll find someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a cure. It doesn't need, it's not a diagnosis that needs a cure, right? It's not something that needs to be, that's an illness. And most people try to solve it with dating. And that is not the case.
That's right. So, Ralinda, one of the main reasons I wanted you to come on is I wanted you to share how you find joy in the midst of your singleness. Because just like you said, many people believe that singleness, or not believe, but they may act in a way that they believe that singleness is a curse. So they always believe that someone should be with, that someone should always be with someone, which I guess could be a good thing. But I have not been single for quite some time. But I wanted to reach the married and the single, the women who's out there in general, to show them how they can be joyful despite whatever their relationship status is. So I'm going to share how I remain joyful in my marriage. And then I would like for you to share as well for those singles who are listening, who looks to find that joy. So for me, I find joy within my marriage when I have those challenges, because we're two imperfect people trying to live a quote unquote perfect life. Yeah. And so in order for me to remain joyful is I have to take that creative time for myself. I got to spend some time with myself. I like to do my own nails. I like to draw and write, whatever it may be. I like to focus on myself and my growth, my personal growth. And then one thing that includes my husband that allows me to remain joyful is I know that despite what we're going through, we have this rule, and we've had it our entire marriage, that within 5 minutes of entering the home, we have to give each other a kiss. And so that brings me joy and lets me know that despite what we're challenged with, what we're going through, whether I'm upset with him or he's upset with me, it's a rule that we stick to, and I have that to look forward to despite of. So how do you remain joyful?
How do I remain joyful? So the first thing is to do the things that I like to do. And that statement actually is much deeper than what it sounds like. Okay. There was a time in between after divorce, and I would say maybe even before marriage, but after divorce and in singleness, I didn't know what I like to do. It was always whatever the other person wanted to do. I was fine with it. I was going along to get along. And I always use this example. If anyone has ever watched the movie Coming to America, where the girl was just like, the one that he was supposed to connect with, the queen that was set up for him, she always was like, whatever you like.
That's right.
Whatever you like. And he didn't like that because it was like, well, how does your mind think?
That's right.
What are you thinking? Do you have an opinion? Do you have hobbies? What do you have? But I was that person where it was like, I was people pleasing. Yeah. Whatever they like, it's going to be happy with me because I'm going to always have a person. So I just made sure I was intentional. I am intentional of doing the things that I like to do. And so that goes back to like, well, what makes me happy? What gives me peace? What gives me joy? I have paint and canvases, and I'm looking at them right now. Canvases I could just pull out randomly, just sitting in the window and paint, and can spend the time away doing that, or go to a movie, by myself, or order in and just watch whatever movie, hopeless romantic movies. I love romantic movies. Listen to jazz all day, dance around the house. Not to say that you can't do that as a married person, but it's just this freedom that you get just doing exactly what you want. And the other thing, how I maintain joy in my singleness is creating and maintaining boundaries. Because sometimes as a single person, people feel like you ain't got nothing going on.
Right.
in your life. And if you don't know who you are, people will suck up that time, and then that will determine what they want you to be.
That's right.
And so you have to be careful of that, because people will try to change you, having things that they want to do and do this. And then it's like, you have to maintain the boundaries. Like, I don't care if I ain't got nothing else going on. If I say no, it's no, because it's my time that I can have right now. And I've learned to enjoy that peace. If I'm not doing anything, that doesn't mean it's owed to you, right? And you'll be happy having that freedom of knowing what to do with your time.
That's right.
Because when the kids and the marriage come in, you got to split all that up. So it's good to have that. And also is to maintain joy in my singleness is to focus on my purpose. That gives me so much joy to focus on my purpose. There's no distractions, and I just, and there's nothing, better than basically finding the reason that you were born.
Right.
There's nothing. And so singleness, and I have joy because I'm in like this discovery mode, like how kids are in a sandbox and there's all these things in the stand. They're able to go and feel around and feel at these things, and know what excites them. Like, well, no, I don't like that, but yes, I like this. You have opportunities, and there's joy in the discovery, when it's just you, because it becomes a little bit harder when there's someone else involved and you're trying to discover yourself. Yeah. When you have someone, with you, because then now you have to try to get them to adjust to the changes, things. So it's simple, just finding out what makes you happy, what gives you joy. So that's what I do. It's basically all together is just a whole bunch of discovery.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I remember when I was a little girl, and we used to take, my family and I used to take trips to Chattanooga, Tennessee. It used to be an 8-hour drive. And I loved looking out the window because I would daydream all the time. And I would daydream about being married and having kids. Mm-hmm. Marriage is something that I really, really wanted. And I don't know necessarily why, being so young and desiring that, but it's something that I knew I wanted to be a mom, and I knew I wanted to be married. And when I got married, it was harder than I thought.
Yeah.
It was so hard. And I remember having moments, and even knowing now, that I didn't allow myself to be content in my singleness. I didn't enjoy those moments. I think that there was a part of me who just wanted the marriage so bad that I didn't enjoy those moments of being single. And I see that with many women who are dating, desiring that marriage so bad and so much. And of course, I wouldn't change anything. I love my husband and all that good stuff. But like you said earlier, it's very hard to discover yourself, to be involved in your passions, to learn how to gain that balance, because you got kids, you got a spouse, you got someone to answer to. But I do believe that being single is a blessing because you do have that freedom.
Yes.
You have tons of freedom. So do you desire to be married again?
Absolutely. I desire, and that's the thing with, me being in this space, and it's so funny how God works. Like who would have ever thought that divorce would be the thing, right? That will break me into my purpose. Like God, like you had to break my heart. I had to get my heart broken to get into my purpose. But I love it because now I can stand in both places and minister to both sides, to marriage. Like, okay, well, hey, you don't want to do that no more. And the singleness part. And what's so weird about it, I think either this year or was it last year, I've been single as equal as I have been married or with someone. So it's like a balance. Now I'm just like, I can equally experience both sides. But yeah, absolutely. I do want to get married again. But the thing is, I don't allow the desire to get married to run me.
Okay.
And a lot of people can't find that balance. They just feel like because they want something that it has to be in their every thoughts and their every move. And you could desire something, but still be all about you and all about your purpose and all about self-loving yourself. And some people feel bad for saying, desiring it because it just seems like, oh, well, no, you can desire it because if you truly know what the meaning of it is, okay. Right? And I go, Lord, I might be going ahead of myself. But truly what the meaning of it is, the thing is, if you look at marriage from a healthy standpoint of it not completing you, or look at it as it just adding to you, but it only can add if you know what you're supposed to be doing. Right? So the thing is that, I don't allow the desire to run me, but even after divorce, I never gave up on love. But the thing is, I did give up on loving me.
Okay.
I never gave up on love, but that was like a mirror after the divorce. Like I didn't love myself. Like you said, I was in that position where I wanted to get married so bad. Yeah. I was done dating at 19. Like, I'm like, I cannot do this anymore because I was the marriage minded, person. I feel the need to just try to date all these people. I just felt like if I found one but the thing is my scale was so low. My thing was if they were nice to me, that was fine. I had no other criteria. And that's because I had, low self-esteem. I didn't know myself. I didn't love myself well enough. So I figured someone just being nice to me was all that God had to offer. So I'm going to take it and make it work because I felt that marriage would complete me. Because there were emptiness that I was feeling, which was probably was a space for purpose. Right. But I was chasing after marriage instead of chasing after purpose, to fill that emptiness. So I do desire to be married again in a nutshell.
You touched on this just a minute, but how do you be content and that it doesn't steal your joy? Like you desire to be married, of course. Mm-hmm. But how do you not allow, once again, you touched on it a little bit, how do you not allow that desire for marriage to steal your joy?
Well, I think we have to be real. And a lot of people don't even go there. They tell you, well, just do this and this. Just think of it as moments. Mm-hmm. There are times where it is hard. If I'm going to be honest, it is difficult. When you're just like, oh, where there's certain things you don't even want to do it, by yourself anymore. Like, if you own your home, if you pay all the bills by yourself, all of that, like, you know what, guys, something got to give because I don't be doing this. But if you just look at it as just a fleeting thought in a moment.
There you go.
Right. And don't just emphasize like that's the reason. Because you really, if you sit and think about it with a sober mind, that's kind of stupid to want to get married because I don't want to take out the garbage no more.
Right.
Something that is a lifetime commitment based on because I don't want to take out the garbage or I don't want to pay bills by myself anymore. And then when I get to those sober moments, I'm like, it's not worth my freedom. And that just comes from me loving myself more. The more that I love myself, the
Mhm.
more I put myself,
Mhm.
and thinking about putting myself with someone. Well, let me see if this person is right for me instead of let me see if how I could put this person in. Let me see if I like you. Let me see if you'll be part of my purpose, if you're gonna fulfill some part of my purpose or help me with my purpose, or you're gonna try to destroy it. So you start to take your time, with that. And I don't know if I answered the question.
You did. I think you did. In a nutshell, if someone's
Okay.
single and they're desiring marriage, how they remain content is just understanding that those feelings is just in the moment. Those thoughts are just fleeting in the moment, and you don't want to rush into anything due to like a temporary emotion. So
Mhm.
I totally.
Yep, just a
Oh,
moment. And sometimes, and like I said, it can feel just over like, Lord, oh my God. And when I'm going to get help with this, and not just that, for me now, I'm in a very good space where I know marriage is for me right now because I don't lack anything. But at the same time, the purpose is so much bigger than me. God, I need
mhm.
like it's a need and it's not a want. It's not a I'm tired of sleeping in my bed alone at night or I'm trying to it's a Lord, I need someone to pray with me to help me through this because I don't think about things right all the time. So I need something to bounce off of.
Yeah.
So that's when it becomes a healthy want and desire.
That's good. That's really good. Married folks, we haven't forgot about y'all. We're gonna get we're gonna get into some stuff a little bit later. So would you briefly share about your because you're not just single, you've been divorced and you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share what kind of led up to the divorce and um, all that?
Okay. Well, I already had shared the part and what happened and how I got married. And I mean, was just so blind to all the red flags because I just wanted something to complete the emptiness that I was feeling was so unbearable. And the thing is that emptiness, it doesn't stop until you fulfill your purpose. Like, okay, if I get married, okay, the house is next and maybe you want children and I don't have any children but it just kept building like well maybe I need this and maybe I need that. So
Mhm.
what happened with the divorce, and I mean this is a story people wouldn't believe it. When I just moved into this home that I am in now, we just moved and found a home and we had like animals and dogs and things. So we're just like, okay, now it's time to take the next step. We were in an apartment, moved into the house. Things were already kind of rocky, you know. Basically I was like leading. I was the leader. I was bossy. I was, manipulative, became controlling because, like I said, I ignored those red flags, that he wasn't able to lead. He wasn't able to, didn't have any direction, didn't have vision for his own life. So I'm trying to hold this whole thing together. So I don't know. It just came to a head. We were sitting in the living room. I never forget. And I remember we had like such a big argument, and I just bawled in tears and was just like, I'm so tired. I am so tired. And he said, I know you're tired. He said, I want a divorce. And I'm like, I didn't mean like that. It hit me. It was a weird sensation because it's like I felt a relief, but then I felt sad, that emptiness at the same time. And once he said it, I'm thinking like he just said it because, this is new or whatever. He had some people come and stay with us for a while. He had some friends and that caused some friction in the, marriage. And that's one thing is like with that, if I can add this tidbit in here, when you're married, never allow people to live in your marital home. I don't care who they are. If they're visiting, and things, that's fine, but come up with a solution where okay, they have the end time to move or whatever, but it caused so much friction because I didn't know they were talking, they were putting stuff in his head, and then he made his decision, he moved out, and everything. So basically just left like I'm just gonna go, and I'm just like, oh my God. So I'm in this space where I'm like, I don't know what to do. We just got a new house, had all these bills and everything piled up.
Yeah.
And as soon as he left, that emptiness that I tried to avoid and run away from came back. So it's like, God, I've been here for years, all to come back full circle to the same spot. And God will do that. God will put you back in the same spot that you tried to run away from, trying to fill these holes yourself instead of letting God fill those holes and fill it with purpose. He will bring you back full circle. So after that, I was forced to basically divorced. I gave him a while. I pushed counseling and he just didn't want to come back. So I was like, okay, well, I have no choice but to file for divorce. And I felt so guilty about that because I felt like a failure. I felt like I gave up because I knew what marriage meant to me. Like, it's forever. And I was a fighter.
How old were you at this time?
Ooh, I think I was like 30, 31. Yeah, just turned 30. Yep.
Okay.
And I was a fighter. Like, that's one thing about me. It's just like, I knew marriage was forever. And marriage is, and people don't understand it, with divorce. It's not a breakup. Sometimes people just compare it to, oh, well, I broke up with someone long term. It is not the same thing, because I told my sister, and it was such a good analogy how I put it. I said, a divorce is like telling me, because we're Christian.
Yeah.
It's like telling me what I've known about Jesus is not real, because marriage is solidified. It's, you know what I mean? It's together. It's the truth. It's never supposed to part. It's never supposed to separate. So once you have that in your mind that this is forever, you have it in your heart that this is forever. So when it breaks, it's like everything that I've known doesn't make sense anymore. So, I tell my stuff, it's just like saying, Jesus don't exist to me. It just feels that way, like this truth, like you're so sold on this truth and it's not the truth anymore.
Not the truth anymore.
Right. That's how it is with marriage, but it's not a breakup because you can have a choice. You got options when you're just dating.
So there's a process of grieving.
Yes. Oh, and didn't know I was grieving. Didn't know, like I was depressed and didn't know, like functionally depressed, and didn't know, just went about the day and, and I don't want to get into the other stuff because I don't want to take up too much time, but, just not even keeping up with the house and was just in this spiral and didn't even know. Went to church as normal. Nobody knew what was going on, but I was functionally depressed. And like you said, I found out that I was grieving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am grieving a marriage. Oh my God. So I tell people it's that serious.
It's that serious. It's that serious. Thanks for sharing that. Now, Ralinda, you share some of that in your book, right?
Yes. Yep, it's all in the book.
Okay.
Even after divorce and dealing with different relationships that I try to do the same thing again. And it
happened again. This is really good because I believe that what you're saying can pertain to married couples as well. Because you said that even when he left, you that emptiness came back.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that many people are in a marriage right now expecting their spouse to bring that joy to them, expecting those external things to keep them fulfilled.
Yeah.
The truth is, only your purpose, only your calling can do that. That is so true. And you pursuing that. And so that's really good, because that is true relationships, true relation, and not just for singles, but for married couples as well. So 10 years later, because that's where we're at, right?
Yeah, definitely a wrap. And even this, I'm like, we're good, right? My ex-husband, we're good. We're completely good. Have no animosity, nothing.
That's good. Now that's good.
Yes, we're good.
10 years later, what are 3 ways that that you're ready to get married again? And then also, and pertain to someone else who is a divorcee, how do they know that they are ready to get married again?
Okay, how do you know? Now, the first, I kind of touched on it just now, that you'll know when you're ready when there is no bitterness or animosity.
Okay.
Right, towards that other person. Like, you'll know, like, I even got to the point like his mother does still call from time to time, and I could talk to her and pray with her. She asked me to pray.
Okay.
So I'm not just, so you'll know when you could just freely do it, and when you can let people go,
Okay.
because I didn't know I was holding on to so much like anger and bitterness afterwards. And people would come up to me and minister to me and be like, let it go, let it go. And I'm like, what? Let it go. But I was holding something in, about whatever happened, whatever the situation was. I was holding on to it. So I would say the number one top thing is to make sure that you have no bitterness or no animosity from any past relationships, and that you are able to release people, and the pain that they cause.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll get into that point where I forgive the person, but you're still holding on to that pain.
Yes.
So the pain got to go along with it. You can't say, okay, this person, because you have no control over that. But, your pain, you do have control over it. Release it.
Yeah.
Release it. And the other thing is that, when you're, and I know this sounds counterproductive, but to know that you are ready for marriage again is to be okay if it doesn't happen.
Okay. They're not finding their happiness, finding their joy in a marriage.
That's it.
All right.
To be okay if it doesn't happen, and to know that your life is full already. When you live a full life and feel that it's full, that's like, okay, you eat some cake and you're satisfied with those 2 pieces, but that extra piece, which is really put, the cherry on the top, but you don't have to have it. But it would be nice.
Absolutely.
So when you're ready to think on that level, and I know a lot of people are not there, and that's the thing, but that just shows me a lot of people are not ready for marriage as well.
That's true.
So I mean, it does take a lot of maturity, and it does take a lot of, just really just being so sure of yourself to think that way, because a lot of people I know are not well, what you mean? And that's like a life destructive thing. I'm not, well, you saying I'm never gonna get married, and it's like, but think about what you're asking for, right? That's a huge responsibility, and I won't go into that. And the last thing to know that you are ready, for marriage, I would say as a divorcee, is to know, and I mentioned it earlier, that you lack nothing. And to know that God is everything that you need, like anything that you're complaining about. Well, God, I don't have enough money. God, I don't, need this place to live, or, whatever. God can handle that. God will give you the solution, and it even says, in the scripture about the sparrows and how much he cares for them. Like, how much can he care for you?
That's right.
Right. So you're not going to be left out of the equation because you're not with someone.
That's right.
He's not going to leave you out because, oh, you got to find somebody first before I could do this for you. God don't think that way. He loves us individually. And we have to know that God is everything, and believe it. Believe it to be so in your heart, not just saying it, but just believe it. And, to know that the only reason you will need someone is only if you to fulfill or help fulfill the purpose. Like, that you need, because God told you so as well. Like, hey, Adam and Eve in the beginning, they were just that purpose part. They needed each other in that way. You couldn't have the Adam, without the Eve, you just couldn't have that. But that's when, even God will tell you, God will let you know, like, I'm going to send someone to help you with this, to help you with that, not regular household things.
That's right.
But a thing to help for the work of the Lord. But the thing is, I know that sounds boring, me saying that, because we're so hung up on the bonuses. The bonuses, like, yeah, you'll have the intimacy and the fun and the trips and the couples pictures and the posts, but those are bonuses.
That's just bonus.
And nothing to be worshipped, and nothing to focus. Even the marriage, the wedding, the fancy wedding, the dressing, all of that stuff. Those are just bonuses. So that's when when you're ready after you've been divorced.
I say those who are single, who are listening, I believe that the 3 ways that one of many three of many, but I believe that one, you need to have a relationship with God,
Yeah.
a strong, deep connection of who God is and whose you are, not just who you are.
Yeah.
Forgiveness of yourself. Like we've all messed up and we've all, had moments where there's shame or whatever involves. And I think a lot of times we can get into relationships looking for someone to be our father, looking for someone to be our mother.
Yes.
And we have to deal with that stuff inside of us so that we're not attracting the wrong person. Also, an awareness to make this sound nice, an awareness of what adulthood really is. And to be an adult is to separate yourself from your parents. And it means to be responsible. When you're getting married, whether you are a husband or a wife, you are responsible for your household. And it requires you to be a leader. Even a woman in the marriage is a leader to the children and whatnot. But I think it's just really important for someone to have that awareness of what being an adult is all about.
Yes.
All about. So what do you believe? Someone who's single, Ralinda, what do you think 3 ways that they know that they're ready for marriage?
Well, you touched on the ones that I kind of had, again, like you said, to know who you are. But I love what you said, know whose you are. That's right. That is so imperative. If you don't know how important you being here, you born is to God. Yep. He has you here for a purpose. And I have that in there, to know your purpose from God.
That's right.
And a lot of people feel like, well, let me just get married and then I'll get into the purpose thing because it's secondary. No, your purpose is basically your GPS system.
There you go.
That it will tell you the right person to marry, what to do, how to live. What should your atmosphere look like? That's what your purpose does. It already kind of just shows you, navigates you on how to paint the picture of your life that God has given you. And like you said, able to be self-sufficient. You got to know how to take care of yourself. Don't depend on that person to do this, that, and the third. Just, learn to be self-sufficient, and you will be proud of yourself.
That's right.
For being able to do things on your own without depending on anyone, and I love it that I can be independent. Like I would say for myself, to know I may not necessarily can't fix a thing, but I know what to call. And YouTube is wonderful. You can find solutions on YouTube.
Everything. I learned how to swim off of YouTube. So yes. I know how beneficial YouTube is. That's right.
Yes, it's too much information out here for you not to know how to do that. Like what killed me. Okay, I'm gonna go on my soapbox a little bit. And then it's nothing against anyone, but for even with the women, I'll just say women, with I don't cook. Okay, is that saying that you don't want to, or you're not, or what is that about? I don't cook. Well, maybe when I get a husband, don't do that. Because I look at it, and maybe I'm old school in that way. And I'm like, it's just a way to take part in taking care of your family, And even if you can't do it, you know how to manage around it.
That's right.
You know how to delegate. You know how to do this. But like I said, there's so much information out there. You should want to.
It is. It's a lot of information. I'm not. I am. That is not my passion.
Yeah.
I think that cooking is so boring. I like. Oh my God! I could be doing.
Oh my God.
And stirring this rice. It's just not. But I do cook. I cook. But my husband, my kids know that I just cook to survive. If you guys want all the extras, But you're right. You can't come into a marriage saying what you're not going to do.
Yeah, what you're not going to do.
You got to be willing to compromise. Absolutely.
That's it. Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. So to that single person who's out there struggling in their relationship status, what is your advice? That single person who's divorced, whether it's a single woman, single man, we're going to kind of go through all of them. What is your advice to those who are just struggling right now?
I would say, and being single, right?
And being single. So let's start with the person who's divorced.
Okay.
They're struggling right now with just being divorced, and they're struggling with the status that they have above their head right now. What's your advice for them?
Okay. My advice. Well, you start asking yourself a lot of questions on why is it such a struggle for you?
Hmm.
Just kind of write down the list. What do you think that marriage, will do for you? Because a lot of times what I do notice when somebody wants something so bad, that's usually kind of the red flag, because you feel like it's selfish in a way. You feel like it's gonna do something primarily for you. And we know marriage is not that way. You have to come and be full. That's so right. Then that other person can get the overflow. You can't go into that thing being an empty cup. So if you're depleted in any way, and I think this can go all the way across the board, whether you're divorced, you may need healing, that marriage is not going to do it for you. You're single, and a woman and married, you need to figure out, okay, well, if you're going through financial problems or you don't have a place to live, or whatever, that's not going to do it for you. These are things that you should have done before. So I think just like really just down the line and down the board, it's just that you need to answer some questions. Ask yourself, but that, I call them mirror moments. Have a mirror moment. Look at yourself. Why do I want this so bad? And then look at really what marriage is. Talk to people.
What about that woman who she's freshly or newly divorced, and she's not necessarily desiring a marriage right now? She's still getting over this one, but she's struggling right now in the fact that she is divorced or that she's going through a divorce. What would you say to her?
It is a grief, it's a grieving process that you do have to go through. Let them know that you are going to go through those roller coaster emotions. You're going to feel mad, sad, angry, all of that stuff. And then also just kind of take that time to evaluate. I made like a little list, what was the pros, what was the cons, of it, and not to blame yourself. Like I was just experiencing a lot of guilt because you just feel like, well, why did this marriage fail? You put so much weight on yourself, like, well, I should have tried harder. Like, don't live in the past. I believe a lot of people that are divorced, they struggle and they live in the past.
That's right.
And I even had a thought, even getting ready for these questions, and thought about, the times where I'm like, well, let me think about the times where I probably really would have been okay being by myself. And I remembered when I met him, I was like maybe 22 or 21, met online, and I stayed with him where he was at. And then so all through me looking, I've never lived by myself. I was like, I've never lived. I went straight from my mom's house to being with someone. And then I'm just like, wow. So, and I remember, I'm like, God, where were the times where I probably could have broke away, or you were trying to make my own decision? And I remember we were living in his mom's house, came out, got a little studio apartment. And I remember he couldn't come up, because he was still where he was at. And I was begging him to come join me, but you looked around, there was only space for one person. And I said, God, I really could have been okay. This is that. So sometimes you'll get into the modes, where you're just like, but you have to forgive yourself.
You got to forgive yourself. So you can't hold on to the past. It's over. Yeah. Accepting that it's over and being graceful with yourself. Yeah. Just being really graceful. What about that single woman and that single man? They're not dating or anything. They're just single, and they kind of like, man, I'm so tired of being single. I'm just so frustrated. I'm ready to find somebody. My advice would be to just enjoy your singleness. Find the blessing in the singleness. I had shared right before you had joined. I was in church this couple years ago, and our pastor was doing like a Valentine's Day service. And he had made a joke and said that all the married people are looking at the single people like, aren't they lucky? And then all the single people are looking at the married like, aren't they lucky? When you're in a season of your life where there's difficulties, you're always looking out at something else, thinking that someone else or something else is so much more of a blessing rather than being content in where you are. So just finding the good, because no matter what season you are in your life, there's still some good in it. So what would you say, Ralinda?
Yeah, I want to add that it's that grass is greener, syndrome. We always, like you said, always look on the other end and just like, oh, well, if you water your own grass, it can be pretty healthy. Take care of your own grass. The thing is, we always want somebody to take care of our grass instead of us taking care and watering and nurturing our own grass, because it requires work.
Yes.
So when we look at other people and we see that their grass is greener, but you're not looking at the work.
That's right.
That they put into it, the treatments and whatever they had to do with their grass. So when it's your turn to do it, I don't understand that. That's kind of crazy, because if it requires work for your grass to be greener, you're looking over the other grass, so you don't think that takes work.
Yeah. Everything takes work.
It takes work. So, but you know what boggles me, and then I get it with the singles, and they, they're just frustrated in that status. And when you do tell them that, because I do mentor, a couple people that have that mindset, I want to get married and, whatever. And I'm like, but you got to be on your own. You got to know what God is calling you to do. You got to know, get out of school, find you a job. You don't even know if you want to live here, but you have that freedom. Don't rush into being locked down somewhere.
Here you go.
And then you wake up and because you're growing and you're evolving, and then, well, and you're trying to take a whole family with you across the country, it gets difficult. So I'm just like, establish where you want to be, get into your purpose, and then you'll know. But it's so impatient. So that's, to me, like, it's an alarm and a red flag. It's just like, what are you looking for that to do for you? That's when I ask, well, what do you think that is gonna do for you? Well, I just want it. Like, it's not gonna solve lust. It's not going to solve, like I said, that emptiness, because I'm letting you know that emptiness is purpose, right? And letting them know, what does this mean? And, so unfortunately, a lot of people just have to do it to understand it. But my advice is that if someone is telling you, it's not, because I know what they think. Well, that's that person's marriage. Mine ain't going to be like that. It's going to work. I have good intentions. No, you need to understand what it is. And I'm like, well, why do you guys always try to intimidate us? The ones that's been married or divorced or are still married, they just feel like we try to bully them.
Marriage just requires a lot of work, and just,
it's serious.
Yeah, a lot of compromise, it just requires, and no one's marriage is easy. Everyone's marriage has a challenge, because once again, it's two imperfect people trying to make something perfect, and there's no such thing as perfection, So yeah.
And it's a rewarding work. It's a rewarding work, and it's a great labor. But the thing is, you still have to work, but it's a great labor. And I tell people, like that selfishness, you just cannot. You can't be selfish. You can't just always think about yourself, because you always have to consider the other person. But, when you have that love of God and love of Christ, yeah, it's going to work. A lot better than someone that's just, well, what are you going to do for me? Well, what are you going to do for me? We sitting there arguing with me and taking tabs. And, well, I did this for you the other day. Now you got to do this your turn.
You really, truly have to have a heart to serve one another. What about that one who is dating? They're dating, but they're so ready to have that label of marriage. And so they kind of like, okay, well, I'm dating, or they are not looking to date, but they're in dating, and they're just trying to find that one. Now, my advice would be, if you're dating, take your time.
Yeah.
Get to know the person. A common thing that I always say to singles and those who are dating, the person that you are dating, everybody has a flaw. Take a look at their flaw. Can you deal with it for the rest of your life?
Your life, yes.
Deal with it for whatever. If their flaw is smoking, if their flaw is sipping and drinking, and you don't necessarily like that. If their flaw is cursing, if their flaw is, just negativity and sarcasm, criticism, can you deal with that for the rest of your life? Many times women especially believe that once they get married, those things will change. Once I have a baby, those things will change. That's not true. Those flaws actually become worse and get more intensified, because any of our flaws become more intensified in stressful situations. And marriage is and can be a high, intense, stressful situation because of the things that you guys are continuing continuously going through. So if you're dating right now, whoever it is that you're dating, think about the flaws that they have. Think about the family that they have as well. Do you want to deal with that for the rest of your life?
That's it. That was advice I got when I was married, before I got married, and we're going through marriage counseling. And she pointed out, just like, can you deal with this for the rest of your life? So I'm like, yeah, but in the back of my mind, oh, that's going to change.
It's going to change
It's going to change.
After we say I do, after he see how beautiful I am as I'm walking down the aisle. No. People's flaws is some is just a personality. Some things is trauma, and some things that need to get dealt with, and sometimes it's dealt with. They don't discover that, and they kind of deal with it through marriage. But whatever their flaw is, can you deal with it for the rest of your life?
That's it. And it irritated me like times 10. You get married, it amplifies, and it really irritates you, after a while. So I forgot the question you asked because I was going to answer it.
It was just about the advice for those who are dating. And then we're going to get to the married couples. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So the dating, don't date so many. Because the whole reason of dating is, first be led to who to date, and God, I sincerely don't believe God leads you to date a bunch of people.
Okay.
I believe, and I think that's the problem, because then it's like you're getting all of, and I've heard someone say, dating is collecting data. So you're dating so many people all these times, you're getting too much data, like it's data overload. So I believe you'll be led on who to date, and then you just take it like, just to give even advice on how to date, because I even wrote down my little list on, okay, when it's time, Lord, this is how I want to date. Yes. So, this could be really helpful for someone initially. Don't make such a big, huge deal about it. Everyone's just like, oh, first date, this and that, go all out. But most of the time, you really kind of even don't know that person yet. So my advice is, just to go get some coffee, go to a neutral place, pay for your own cup of coffee. I know how people be talking, but pay for your own cup of coffee, pay for your own little ice cream, because it's no distractions. You're able to sit and see how this person communicates, because communication is a big thing in a relationship, and if your communication thing is just, just my thing is, if you're drinking coffee, you have nothing to do but talk. And I have to see if I like you. Like, let me see if I even like you. I can see how you treat people, yes. People that work there. I can see where your attention is. I can look you in the face, and it's not a big deal. So if it doesn't work out, it'll be easier to say, oh, we could be friends, because there really wasn't nothing invested. I didn't have to buy a dress. I didn't have to wear a whole face of makeup put on. You didn't have to take me to the expense of pay all this money. Yeah. So then after, if that goes well, okay, now let's talk about, the date, right? So I think, like you said, that's a form of taking your time.
Just take your time.
Take your time. Don't go be impressed. Because I feel like, some people say, well, no, you should want a man to flatter you and do this. And that is true. And that will come in time. But at the same time, I done met, that doesn't determine if they're not a jerk or not. They can... They just may want to, if anybody understands, just want to flex. I just want to show you how much money I can spend. And then they'll get into, well, I didn't spend all this money on this person or whatever. I don't even want you to think about that. Mm-hmm. So, take your time. Focus on the important things that you want, right? Like, let's say you want somebody that communicates well, that knows how to hold a conversation. You'll find that out just in those coffee dates, in those ice cream dates, you'll know, and focus on those important things. And it's a way for you to ask questions.
Absolutely. A thought just came to me. If there's a woman out there, anyone who's, dating, and they're in a relationship and they're living together, and, they already have that marriage planned, it's not too late. If you know that something isn't right, if you listen to this and it's triggering you to realize that, those flaws, you don't think that you haven't committed into anything just yet. So you still have time to step back. So if you're listening, and I'm talking to you, just reflect. Just because you're living together, just because you are have the date planned, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through with it. Especially if you're realizing that those flaws are something that you can't deal with. Getting into marriage is very easy. Getting out of one is not so easy. All right. It's
That
try.
is so good. Because
Yeah.
that's how I was. Because I felt I spent time, I invested time, because we were living together for a while. I
Wow.
invested time. Like I felt like I had to,
Yeah.
instead of just looking at it like I don't have to. I,
Yeah.
I felt like I had to, and God was nudging me. Like I was at the altar about to. It wasn't no jitters or anything. It was God telling me like no,
Wow.
like no. I felt like I was attending a funeral,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
something was dying. It's all in my book, but I felt like everyone's attending a wedding. I was attending a funeral.
wow. It's kind of like when you're at a job for a long time, you begin
Mhm.
to move up, and you just keep thinking, I really don't like this job. I don't like it, but I'm just going to keep something don't feel right about it. But the next step is to just keep moving up and taking these different
Yep,
leadership positions. And just because you're at a point in your relationship where the next step is marriage, if you know something ain't right,
that's
you
it.
don't have to take that next step. Take that weight off your shoulders. Who's telling you that you have to? So that's really good. Oh, wow, Ralinda, you was like a funeral. My goodness. My goodness. But it's the truth. And I'm sure you're not the only one who
Mhm.
knew not to do it, but went forward with it, anyway. Anyway. So let's get to these married couples. And so, Ralinda, I were actually, I don't think, because I gave Ralinda like a list of questions, but I don't believe I have this question in here. I would like for us to talk about that married couple right now who's challenged. And they just kind of like, I'm going through. I'm battling with some difficulties. I don't think I asked your advice to them, but I would like to hear your advice to that couple who is really challenged right now. Short story, about I want to say a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I called up one of my older sisters, like my second to oldest, and she has been married for like over 25 years.
Mhm.
And I was just so frustrated with some things. I'm very neat, and he's just still a little messy, and it just got to me this day, amongst some other things. And I'm normally really good at kind of like holding it together and dealing with it, but I called her up and I just kind of confided in her. And as I was talking to her, she started laughing, and it made me even more upset. I remember I was in the Aldi's parking lot. They were loading groceries in my car, and she was just laughing like, "Oh my God." But as she stopped laughing, she was like, "I've been there before. I've been there before." And so she just cracking up laughing. She was like, when he does something like that, you have to go in the bathroom, close the door, and you have to talk to God. And
Mhm.
you have got to deal with yourself. You have got to such and such and such and such. And what I took away from that conversation is that I needed to focus on myself. So
Yeah.
he's not perfect, but I'm not perfect either.
Mhm.
So those married couples, I believe that you're going through challenges right now. It is so easy to see what that spouse is doing or what that spouse is not doing. But you also got to see what you're doing and what you're not doing. I cannot tell you enough to focus on yourself, focus on your personal growth, on the wisdom that you need to attain, focus on your relationship with God. And it doesn't necessarily mean doing a lot, it just
Right.
means sitting in his presence and carving out some prayer time, or maybe just being quiet and listening to what God has to say. You'll be amazed at what you'll hear God say when you just shut your mouth and be quiet.
That's it.
Some moments when I'm taking my dog for a walk, I listen to audio and affirmation and things like that. But sometimes I don't listen to anything, and it's amazing of what I hear from God during that mile or two walk when I just got my mouth shut.
Yep.
I would say you in marriage, you are one in spirit. You are. However, you are two totally separate people. So you guys have different goals, different dreams, different purposes. So therefore, make sure that you're pursuing that. The desires that your husband has or that your wife has may not be the same. And guess what? That's okay.
Yep.
The dreams that they have, that's okay. But start to pursue yours. Start to pursue yours. Once again, pay attention less to what they're not doing and just focusing on bettering yourself. Focus on bettering you, bettering your thoughts, bettering your behavior, your body, your mind, all of that good stuff. And I want to mention Proverbs 31. We find in Proverbs 31, she helped her husband. She set up her servants, everything in the house, but she also did stuff for herself too. And you got to look at that whole scripture as well. Oftentimes we get into a marriage and we do so much extensions of ourselves, but you got to take some time and focus on yourself as well. So it's a twofold: focus on bettering you, and then also make sure that you got something separate, meaning getting into your creative gifts, not putting your everything into your spouse, because that's a lot of pressure as you're looking to your spouse to totally complete you. Only God can do that, you know?
Yes.
So you got to look to fixing whatever wounds you got going on within yourself. Work on fixing yourself. Reach out. If you realize your marriage is really struggling to a point, don't wait till it gets really, 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 really bad. Seek the help out. Get a relationship coach or get some counseling for someone that you trust. What would you say, Ralinda?
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much like you said, it's just that thing, and it's hard for you to quiet yourself. Because you just feel like you said, like you have to be heard all the time, and
Yes.
you want to express yourself, and men, just how they just are, like they just don't. The more you fuss and the more they don't listen. But the thing is, in the order, you have to think about the order how God designed things. It's God, and then it's the man, and then it's the wife. But the thing is that, God does hear, the prayers of a praying wife. Yes. And if God is the one that turns the head of the king, that turns that, you have to have faith in that, and you have to believe, that it'll work out. And like you said, sometimes it's him, but sometimes it's us. And you're just like, well, God will end up working on you. You're like, well, God, what about this? No, I got to work on you first. Yeah. But you have to, it takes a lot of, like I said, quieting and trusting in God, and that faith that God, you hear me, and you're going to work, give that time and that patience to work on, the husband, or work on me. So work on us both.
I heard this thing one time. It says the man is the head, but the woman is the neck of the home. So if you think about it, the man leads, and I guess it's a decent analogy, but how is your temperament in the home? Like if you're the one who's kind of moving that neck, or the woman in the house is, how is your temperament in the home? Is it respectful? Is it kind? Always argumentative? I think somewhere in Proverbs it says that it's better to live on the corner of a shack of a roof than to be in the house with a nagging wife. I mean, that's crazy. It's the truth. To be in the corner of a shack, then oh my God. But it's the truth. It is the truth.
Yeah, and it's like this whole roller coaster thing. Like I listen to a lot of relationship and marriage things, and even with Christians having conversations, and sometimes the men get frustrated because they feel like, the women has always does the temperature, does the controlling of things, and the women get mad because they feel like, well, my husband isn't doing enough for me to do those things. So it's like, how do we get out of this confusion and this tangle?
I think that many women, how do I explain it? Like, they don't believe, once again, you don't see your husband responding in a way that you would, but you don't even give your husband the opportunity to lead, because you're jumping and doing it. Step back. And if he fails, he fails. You guys pick up the pieces together. But yeah, I think every woman has done that at some point, because I know I'm a woman who like, okay, let's get it up. A seat was coming.
And I believe they'll respect you, because like you said, when you let them fail or whatever, you let them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come to you and be like, I should have listened to what you said. You were right. Because the thing is, they want to try to do it. And not to say that they won't ever get it right, but they're going to turn around, but they're going to want to hear you more.
They may not say you were right. They may just.
But what were you talking about the other time?
Yeah, like saying, but so you might not get your kudos.
Right.
And not to say that women are always right, and the husband isn't, but you can't move a husband's actions by your emotions and by nagging. It doesn't work.
Oh, no, it don't work.
I mean, I'm right. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. So just step back, let him, if he's doing something that it just may not, and use common sense here, sense. But if you know that he's doing something that you wouldn't necessarily do in the way, just let him do it. And if he fails, you guys, God will give you the grace. You guys pick yourself back up together. It'll be all good. But taking that authority, taking that leadership from your husband could be really detrimental, because every man wants to feel like he is needed, that he is wanted. And if you're always leading, always, absolutely. But I think many women struggle with that.
Yeah, I that was my problem. But it was like, well, you didn't get, because he'd have a vision. He wasn't look back taking me anywhere.
When you look back over it now, because hindsight is always 20/20.
Right.
When you look back, do you see areas where you could have stepped back and kind of allowed him to lead, or just allowed him?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I could have stepped way back on a lot of things, just like, well, let me see how you're gonna, but assisting, helping, encourage, maybe more. And there were some areas, like you said, in hindsight, I would look like, well, I maybe could have encouraged him, in certain areas. I could have, encouraged him more, because he didn't feel too good in this area. And, so yeah.
So instead of trying to lead and be bossy with it, just encourage him.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Excuse me. That's really good. I think that, and it just came to me, that many women takes that leadership role out of fear, because you're afraid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. How do you believe God desires for Christian singles to live?
He wants them to primarily live, for him. Live for him. They want, like I said about that, to know that he is enough.
Absolutely.
Individually, I believe that's just such a desire of God to know that, like, you're my everything, you're my provider, you're all of this, and that's why just, with even God and how we call him out, he can be our counselor in one season. He can be, our healer in one season. Nobody can be those things but him. So once we realize that, he wants us to depend on him, it goes back to the beginning. All he wanted for Adam and Eve was to just be with him.
Yeah.
Not together, then be with him. He wanted even that for Adam. I just want you to walk with me. Just have this rapport with me all the time. And that's what he wants as a single person, and even Paul, in the Bible gave that testimony where he said, I wish for all of y'all to be single, because you don't understand that devotion that's going to be split when you're married. I'm not saying don't get married, but I'm telling you, it's better to be single, because you get to spend all of this time with God. Yes. And God wants our undivided attention in our time all the time, but he does honor marriage. He honors that covenant, because it is a representation of, him and us, with Jesus, that marriage. Right. So he honors that, but as long as it reflects him and how he loves us.
How he loves us.
So if your marriage is like that, that's fine. And he loves it, and that you believe in him, and that's fine. But he really does like that individual type of thing. So when you're content with him, you're not going to worship his bonuses.
That's good.
And he does not want you to worship his bonuses. And marriage is a bonus. right? It's not nothing where I'm not living life if I'm not married. I'm nothing and I know there's a lot of women and a lot of men that are out there that feel that you're not nothing. You haven't accomplished life because you're not married. This is just a bonus. God is the prize.
Yeah.
Everything else is these little tinker toys and bonuses that you get to have that he allows us to have. But you have to know, he wants us to know as single people that he is the prize and that he will always be the prize.
He will always be the prize. Absolutely. You're right. Good. I love it. And as I see a Christian single living out a life, I believe that they should just experience all the goodness of God too. You don't have to be married to travel. You don't have to be married to enjoy a nice little restaurant to sit down at a cafe. You don't have to be married to go spend time at the park or go downtown and ride your bike on Lakeshore. You don't have to wait for a relationship for that. So enjoy all the beauty that God has surrounded you with instead of sitting and waiting for someone. Enjoy all of that beauty that you have access to.
Right. And if you think about it, it's like you're sitting around and waiting for work.
Yeah.
You're waiting for work. You're waiting for responsibility. Who wants more responsibility piled on? When you think about it like that, like you're sitting around instead of enjoying your free space, enjoying all this time, but you're waiting on work.
Waiting on work.
So if you think about it like that, like I'm not waiting because it's a ministry, it's a whole thing that goes into that. And then when you have your kids, these are little, some people just think, kids is just kids. No, these are little, what do I call them? Like little people that have their purposes and you have to help them and cultivate them. Like I'm trying to get my purpose together and I found it. I got to help these little people.
Yes, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm trying to figure life out.
Yeah.
Figure business out. Figure all of it. And you got little kids coming like, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
What? But it's true. It is so true. And in the world today, just leading them in the right path and teaching them the right things, it's a lot of responsibility. Now, once again, it's a great reward. It's a beautiful reward.
Beautiful reward.
And it's a wonderful experience. However, it is a lot of responsibility. How I believe that God desires for the married couples to live is, once again, obviously to honor God, but also in honoring your spouse as well, respecting and loving them as well. And in Colossians, I believe it is 3:19, Paul states that husbands should be gentle to their wives.
Yeah.
And wives are to serve their husbands. So keep that in mind. I do believe that every woman, no matter how many boss women is out here, no matter how much a feminist movement is out here, I believe that women are gentle. And I believe that we are precious and we are princesses. And I believe that we should be treated as such in a gentle way, spoken to in a gentle way. Just kindness and thoughtfulness, and women looking to serve their husbands really. And I love when you said encouraging them. And I believe that that's an excellent way to serve. Just remembering that marriage is a ministry. It is a true ministry. So you have to put work into it, being patient and always walking in love and thoughtfulness. Do you have anything to add to that, Ralinda?
Nope.
All right. Well, that really kind of sums it up for us. And I'm really hopeful that married couples, single couples, dating couples could take away how to remain joyful despite whatever season that they're in. Above all, just really enjoying the relationship with God, building a relationship with God, and just enjoying all the beauty around us that he's given us. And that's whether you're married, single, or dating. Enjoy all of that beauty that he has given us. Ralinda, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook. It is under the Psalms of My Emotions podcast. And then it also goes on to YouTube as well, the Psalms of My Emotions podcast. And Instagram, I didn't make a Psalms of My Emotions podcast page because I feel that I gave that up already to that. So that's under my name, Ralinda C. McCoy, and that's at Instagram.
Awesome. And now, Ralinda, tell us more about your coaching programs for singles and how you help them.
Yes, Coach Q. Now, look, I'm going to let y'all in. Look, I speak a lot of wisdom, and knowledge that, I freely share. But, let me tell y'all, this one ain't no joke. She's the one that pushed me. And, so I'm just so thankful, for her. Thank God for her to just finally get all of this information and organized. And because I truly want to do this for the rest of my life, help people. My passion is to help heal emotions of people and to help guide them into their purposes. And she just helped me realize that, with the singles, like speak to the single women, speak to the divorced women. And then it's like, it just dawned on me, like, God was like, you went through this stuff.
That's right.
This is your material, right?
Yes.
So the program that I have, well, if you follow the Solves of My Emotions podcast, you'll get that free information there. But starting on Monday, I will launch at 7 p.m. Central. I have a private online community, which is the Solves of My Emotions mentorship and coaching. So there you will get the mentorship, so it's private. So it'll be just us and whoever just joins, so it'll be super, super duper private. So there is where you will get that, maybe in depth and what I talk about in my podcast. You'll be able to hear where all of that is coming from, be able to participate. And also you'll be able to, just kind of get, just insiders on different little private events. It could be brunches, it could be, just wherever location that's not going to be public, but you'll be able to have access to that and invitations to that, so you can go, because you don't want to miss them. Because I just believe people are in need of community right now. People are going through in their relationships, are going through in their single statuses, and, going through divorce and going through things mentally that and emotionally that they need help sorting out, and need to find God, solutions to these things. So in that private online community, there will be availability for the program. I'm going to have two things. I'm going to have the Songs of My Emotions group coaching, and then there are going to be options for you to have one-on-one coaching, but the details will be in the private group. And basically how this program is, in a nutshell, I help the single Christian heal in their heart so that they can discern, pursue their purposes while pursuing their peace and obtaining their joy and freedom unapologetically. So this is basically my story in a nutshell. Because and an amazing thing about it is, this is just to give you guys a little tidbit on your purpose. Whatever God has put you in is what you're supposed to use. That is your tool, which Coach Q taught me, is your tool. That's what's going to be used to bring other people out. And you'll know even more specifically, I haven't seen, and I'm not against it, because I think I do. Look, I need to see her sister, with the trauma. I just want a clean house. I just want to make sure there's nothing lingering or nothing there. But it's something amazing where the things that I've went through, I was able, with the help of God, to heal myself out.
Yes.
And I take that not for granted. I'm like, well, God, everyone else needed this and that and a third, and that doesn't make me a better person because of it. It's just that if I'm able to self-heal, yes, that means that's my calling. That's my calling. If I'm able to come out of depression, and all of this stuff without any intervention, that means that's my calling. That means I got to help somebody else out. I'm authorized to help someone else out. So the name of the program is From Damaged and Discouraged to Decided.
All right.
So it's good. It gets deep. It's good. And it goes from, finding, what's toxic, what relationships, going through that. See if you even know that you need to be healed, because you got to know that you need to be healed in order to get into this program and go through the healing, because you can't go in there and thinking that nothing's wrong with me, but I want to find my purpose. It's all linked together. Yes. Right? Because a lot of the things that we want, like marriage, it's because, if we want it so desperately and so bad, it's because there is that void of purpose there. And beyond that, it's because we haven't sorted out things, right? in our childhood and things like that that's happened to us. So you go from that, you go into pretty much knowing who you are. And then you'll find out once you go through those layers that now you can be able to see your purpose.
There you go.
They'll start to unveil and you'll be amazed at, oh my God, I can't believe this was there the whole time, because pain and hurt and confusion was blinding all of that thing. So this is what my program will help you and bring you through. And it's basically, like I said, it's for the Christian singles, and people going through divorce and everything, because I believe that relationships do get in the way, unhealthy relationships, things that you deal with in your emotions, your hurt, your pain. The reasons why we can't get into our purposes or see it is because we're dealing with so much. So that's
good. That is really good. Will I be able to provide a link for them below on that group?
Yes, I actually created it, but I have it hidden.
Okay.
But it'll be live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. All right, Ralinda, I always like to end in prayer if you'll join me in that. But I do once again want to remind those women out there. Last week I shared about a program that my sister and I will be launching actually next month. And you all, Nikita, my sister, is a mental health therapist and IELTS psychologist, psychology professor, and her and I are teaming up together to provide a group coaching program to women who are really good at taking care of other people and have neglected themselves, and they are looking to start pursuing their goals and their dreams. They are looking for the support that they need, and they're really looking to get out of their own way to really live the best life they can possibly live. And Nikita and I are coaching women to do just that. I have created an online course for that, along with weekly group coaching from Nikita and I. So we are excited by that. The link will be attached below. You can click on that, and it will let you be updated with the launch date. Okay. So Ralinda, you'll join us in prayer?
Yes.
All right. Lord, we thank you so much for blessing us to gather again today. Lord God, we thank you so much for Ralinda. We thank you for her wisdom, for her experience, her guidance, and Lord, her transparency for joining us today. Lord, we pray for every person who is listening, whether they are single, dating, married, divorced, whatever it may be. We pray for their heart, Lord, that you may mend any wounds that is within it. We pray, Lord God, that you give them the guidance, the direction that's needed. Father, bless them to be content in the season that they're in, Lord. And we pray that they find their joy above all in you, that they learn not only who they are, but whose they are, Father. Lead them to the right people, Lord, the right places, the right books, the right ministries, Father, that's going to help them to be guided in the direction where they need to be guided. Lord, mend their relationships, Father. If there are married couples that are out there right now who are struggling, we pray, Father, that you mend their relationships. Lord, help them to focus on their relationship with you and the relationship, Lord, within themselves. We pray for the singles out there, Lord, who desire to be married, Lord, that they may find the contentment within themselves and once again within that relationship with you. We ask that you continue to cover us, shield us, watch over us, Lord. We please Psalms 91 over each and every one of us. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Linda, thanks so much for joining us. You will find the Psalms of My Emotions on Monday nights, right? Is it 6?
Yes, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Absolutely. It's shared on Facebook and all that good stuff. So those links will be below. You guys, we thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next Tuesday.